Let's start, George, let's start at the very beginning of your journey. Where are you from? Where were you born, raised? What kind of background?
Well, thank you. So I was born on Long Island, and funny thing is, I really found my way into technology by accident. So I would say, like a lot of other people, my first job was a referral from my family. So my father sent me on an interview, and I got a job working for an analytical laboratory in, of all places, Teaneck, New Jersey, and I learned a lot working for that company. I had the opportunity to work closely with the president of that company, and he really took a liking to me and gave me a lot of opportunities, and one of those opportunities was in computing. So he approached me one day and said, I would like you to implement word processors for the office. And, I kind of looked around the room and I said, well, there's nobody else in the room with me here, so I guess he's talking to me. And I said to him, his name was Andre, and I said, Andre, I don't know anything about computers or word processing, right? And he said, yeah, I know, you'll figure it out. And I said, okay, that's good enough for me. And, as a result of that, I went to IBM. I went to a bunch of classes at IBM and dug into their technology, implemented word processors for him. And from there, I went on to do a number of accounting systems and fell into 70 hours a week of programming. So that was kind of my accidental entree to technology.
And what time frame are we talking, George?
Longer ago than I care to admit, but early 80s.
Early 80s. Well, the reason I need that is to figure out what's happening in the broader world and where is the industry in its evolution to be able to, understand the story better.
Yep, thank you.
So
it's been, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, all I was going to add in there is that being in the industry for as long as I've been, I see the same trends over and over again. So what I see as, or what a lot of people see as new technology, I really just see as evolution.
Yeah.
So it gives you an interesting perspective on a lot of the things that are happening out there.
Well, I mean, there is evolution, and then there is discontinuity. I think we've had the reason the pace of change has accelerated so much is that we've had some major discontinuities in technology. And the way I kind of look at it is, one is Moore's law. Chips have gotten smaller and smaller to the extent that we can now have a supercomputer in our pockets, in the smartphone. And that enabled Steve Jobs to create smartphones as a paradigm. And that's 2007. And before that, the other paradigm shift that really changed things was the Internet coming together as a commercial force in 1994, and giving rise to e-commerce and search and all of that. And then there's this whole social media phenomenon, which changed communication completely. So, and now we are in the artificial intelligence era. So these are very interesting phases of technology. So tell me where how this early story bridges to your entrepreneurial journey. What are the steps that happen in between?
So as I progressed with technology, I guess I fell into consulting, and I really didn't do that by design. I was working with some people in the city, technology company. They sold a lot of accounting software, and I was basically, the technologist on the team. Everybody else was sales, and things kind of got a little rough. So I'll date myself again. That was around Black Monday and the market crash. and I needed a job. So things at the company weren't going really well, and I needed a job, and the first thing that presented itself was a consulting opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I, again, accidentally really fell into consulting, and I really liked it. So I got to work with a lot of really, really smart people, did a lot of work on Wall Street. And I got to, as a consultant, I felt like, I was able to really focus on the technology and not worry too much about, corporate politics and things like that. So I was able to just keep my head down and get some really great work done. So, I really enjoyed that, and I know you're an author, and I've written a few books on technology. McGraw-Hill was my publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lot of fun doing that. And my first book, I had a co-author, a gentleman by the name of Alex Burson, and Alex was a bit older than me, and he kept saying, "George, what's next? What do you do next? Do you want to be a consultant forever?" And I used to jokingly say, "Well, Alex, as long as they pay my billing rate, I'm okay." Mm-hmm. And he kept on me a little bit with that. So basically I had two opportunities in front of me. One is I was offered some really nice positions with financial technology, or financial services firms. So Merrill Lynch offered me a managing director position. JP Morgan offered me a managing director position. And I looked at that as, if I take that type of a role, I really won't be so hands-on in technology anymore. I'll be, they'll be looking for me to, do higher level things and manage people, and I'm not going to have a lot of fun. And if I don't have a lot of fun, I won't be great at it. So I stuck with the technology, and I said to myself at one point, I founded a company called Enterprise Engineering in, 95. And I founded that company based on my background in technology and, Wall Street. So I started a consultancy, and we basically did, I call it all things data for Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And so that was the beginning of, my entrepreneurial career as opposed to just hands-on technologist.
And so that was a technology consulting firm, enterprise technology consulting firm?
It was, and it actually still is. So company did quite well.
So that's the company that we are talking about today.
Well, the company we're talking about today, I built a software business within enterprise engineering. Mm-hmm. I spun that software business out to almost 2 years ago. That company is called Ninth Wave.
Got it.
So Ninth Wave is the company that we're
very interesting, because in our methodology, in the methodology that we teach in 1Mby1M, we have a track that we have formalized for a long time now, and we have case studies for that track and methodology for that track, which we call Bootstrapping Using Services, which is exactly what you've done. You've built a services business and then bootstrapped a product company out of the services business.
Well, I'm a huge believer in that model.
Yeah,
right?
me too. I'm a huge believer in that model. Huge.
Yeah. I'll tell you something I ran into, though, right, along the way. So I did bootstrap the company that way. I had a 0.0 W-2 for about 18 months. So, I worked around the clock. I would go out. I would consult with my clients. I did billing, and while I was building the company. And, every billing dollar that I was able to generate went into payroll, to grow the business. And we grew to about, so I started with really very little capital. And I grew from 0 to about $16 million in roughly 18 months, a little bit more than that.
16 million, and 0 to 16 million.
0 to 16. We were on the Deloitte and Touche Fast 50.
How did you do that? Can you double click down into that? What were the levers of growing that fast?
I had done some really, really good work for Wall Street firms, And I had built a really good reputation as being kind of a problem solver, and really kind of beyond that. Just I don't want to say visionary because I know a lot of people that are visionaries and they're way smarter than I am. But I had a really good ability to say, okay, here's where you are and here's where you need to go, and let's roadmap that and make it happen. Right, so I was really good at that, and a lot of people, trusted me when I would get in a room if there were problems with systems or they needed to build a new system, for the business. They knew I would get it done for them, and they gave us a lot of opportunity. And there were a couple of times there where I remember having to run to the bank, and I had to borrow some money and get to the bank before noon to make payroll. So it was a pretty fast growth track. But
how many people were you doing 16 million with?
About 60.
60?
Yep.
You hired 60 people in 18 months and delivered $16 million worth of work. Wow. That's very impressive, George.
Yeah.
That's
So it was probably about 20. Yeah, thank you. It was fun. I mean, it was probably about 24 months. So within 18, we were at about that run rate.
Yep.
So it probably took us 2 years
to deliver.
But we were. I'll never forget. This was a really good, and kind of a fun moment. You have these moments that just kind of recharge you and say, "Hey, it's worth it." And one of those moments was we won. I think it was in year 2000, right? We won this Deloitte & Touche Fast 50 and also the Fast 500 awards.
Yeah.
We were the fastest growing firm in the tri-state area, so we were 5th overall, and the 4 that were ahead of me were all public companies and no longer exist.
Oh, wow.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
This is 95 to 97 we're talking?
Yeah, so that's 95 to 97, and then we won that award. I think it was like 13,113% growth.
Amazing.
Believe it or not, that number sticks in my head.
So then what happens?
Yeah. Well, I had really never set out to, again, it really in line with your bootstrapping with services. I really didn't set out to build a services company. What I set out to build was something that would provide value, to basically all, participants. So obviously my customers, but also my people. And in order to do that, and I think to establish something that really is durable and has value over time, it's not easy, right? So what I did is I had the consulting business running really well. So the next thing I did is I started something that was really complementary. I actually I built a learning center in Lower Manhattan. And I had 4 classrooms there that I built out, as well as a certification testing center. And what I did is I taught really high-end, non-commodity-based education. So I wouldn't teach you Microsoft Office and things like that. What I would teach you, is data architecture or data replication or data strategy, right?
Yeah.
So I taught a lot of things that were very, very, hard to do, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have a lot of competition there. And we did really well with that business. It was a very profitable business, but it was also really a very satisfying business. And it did a couple of things. One is people that wanted to work for the company, they knew if they came in, they would have that education ability, right? So they could come in, they could learn leading edge technologies, they could learn how to apply them. So it was a really good attractor. And it also allowed me to, when you're going out and you're selling to these big companies, you're selling to, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and back in the day, Bear Stearns, and, you're selling to really big companies. And it's hard to get in there, right? But the other thing is, sometimes I would have somebody that wanted to buy my services, and you would go and, meet with the purchasing people. And the purchasing people sometimes were pretty arrogant, and they would say, well, you're just a body shop, right? You're a consultancy, you're a body shop, I can get this anywhere. And, I think I had good patience with that, so I would say, wait a minute, let me introduce myself and my company again. And I would tell them about, the Learning Center, and I would tell them about what made us different. And that enabled me to get on vendors lists, right? So I could get through procurement. I could get on the vendors list at Merrill Lynch and Bank of America, and Chase Manhattan. So I built that business up, and then, life wasn't complicated enough. So, yet again, in line with your bootstrapping, I saw an opportunity to build a software offering.
So, but just a second, before you go to your software offering,
sure,
I want to understand, how long did you do the high-end data teaching business?
Well, up until 9/11. So my learning center was on Broad Street in Lower Manhattan. They called it the Information Technology, or actually the government. It was Bloomberg and Rudin, Mayor Bloomberg. They called it the Silicon Alley. Actually, was the nickname, right? Not Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley. So I was in the Information Technology Center, and on 9/11, we were downtown there, and basically 9/11 put it out of business.
I see.
As far as the education went. So if anybody,
but your
nobody
Wall
was
Street
going to
consulting
spend money.
business still remained, right? The technology consulting business.
Yes. So.
And what kind of numbers were you doing at this point in 2001?
In terms of revenue?
Yeah.
We were probably in the $20 million range at that point.
And how many people?
Yeah, right around there. So I would say we were probably 85 at that point, maybe a little bit more.
And everybody in Manhattan?
Well, a lot of the consultants were with customers, so you would have people that were out on the ground.
Yeah,
So headquarters was Lower Manhattan, but I did have a lot of on-site consultants, that were out working with clients.
Okay. So 2001, 9/11 happens, your education business is kind of out.
Out of business.
What was the next move?
Well, a little before that, I'll add in the other dimension. And, this is a model that I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but it was a model that I very, very strongly believed in. So I would say in 1999, maybe very late 98, I saw an opportunity to build out a software business. And I had a customer, it was JP Morgan, and they came to me and they said, hey, George, we want to connect all our high net worth clients up to their accounts over the internet. And, dating the technology at that time, you're talking about Hayes modems and Intuit's Quicken product and Microsoft's Money product,
right?
Basically, that people wanted to use. And I went out and I did a study for JP Morgan. Actually hired me, and I wrote technical requirements for them. I interviewed the business. I wrote up business requirements for them. And we took these business and technical requirements and turned them into an RFP. And we sent that out to a number of people. And the responses were really bad. So I sent it to a couple of public firms, a couple of the big system integrators, consulting shops, and then one or two privates. And all of the responses were really bad. So you would see things like, well, it's going to cost you $5 million, and it's going to take 18 months. And I looked at that and I said, wait a minute, $5 million in 18 months? You don't have a product. You're building something for me.
Right.
And,
so why don't you build that product?
Exactly. And so this was a funny one, right? This was a real a real test for me, right? So what I did is, I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is a really interesting opportunity. And so the next thing I did is I wrote a white paper. And I said, all right, here's how I would solve it. And I wrote up a white paper, and it talked about the business problem, the business opportunity, and, the technology required and how I would solve it, right? And the white paper, I was really, really happy with it. So I went out to a bunch of people. I showed them this white paper, and they're like, George, you have to do this. And I said, oh, no. So my next step was, I really kind of looked at it and I said, wow, I built a consulting shop and, it's doing great. And I have this education center and that's doing great. And I'm finally actually making a little bit of money and paying myself. That's great. So now we're going to go out and we're going to start an enterprise software product. And, it's probably going to take you, a year and a half to really build this thing right, and there's a lot of R&D dollars that go into that, and there'll be no revenue coming in to offset it.
Yeah.
And, how is this a good idea? So I took one more step, which was I took a couple of really smart people, and I did a proof of concept. So we basically built some technology to, based on the white paper, to make sure that the solution would actually work. And we did the POC, and everybody told me, George, you have to do it, you have to do it, you have to do it. And finally I said, you're right, we do have to do it. And so I started yet a third business, a third revenue line, building software. And we actually sold that software quite successfully. Won a lot of high-profile clients on Wall Street. So one of my first was J.P. Morgan and the private bank there. And my first client was a company called Online Resources, and they were a public company, subsequently acquired by ACI Worldwide. But they were a service provider. They had a platform, an online banking platform for smaller banks and credit unions. And I sold them the software for banking and bill pay operations with personal financial management tools. So they were my first paying customer, and we've had probably 700 banks, I think, running on it in fairly short order.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have this business where, I believe really, really strongly in this business model. I had services, I had a learning center, and I had software. So the way I looked at it, I can sell people the software, I can bring them into the learning center, I can teach them how to use it, I can teach them how to deploy it, right? And if it's a complex engagement, I have my own services business. We can go out and put the consultants out in the field.
Yep.
And, here was a lesson I learned. And, it's very, very relevant to bootstrapping from services. So the lesson I learned is, I said, how do we take this business now to the next level? And the answer was to go out and raise some capital. So I hired, who did I hire? It was Jeffries back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I hired Jeffries, and we put together an information memorandum and a package, and we went out and started to pitch the company. And I heard two things from people that were, it was very frustrating. So the majority of the people that I pitched to said, we love the software, we hate the services. Services isn't scalable.
Very common reaction from VCs, by the way.
What's that?
Very common reaction from venture capitalists. I don't agree with that reaction at all. I think it's a very stupid reaction, but it is out there. It is very common.
Somebody on the same page. It was so frustrating to me. I can't tell you.
I think it's an idiotic approach to thinking about business. Utterly idiotic approach.
Yeah. Well, I believed so strongly in it. I mean, I loved the business. I believed in it. It was working, right? I had all these customers on the software that were phenomenal customers. J.P. Morgan, Merrill Lynch, Lehman Brothers, and on and on.
Yeah.
And so the other reaction I would hear is that, so one would be, hate the services, it's not scalable, pass, right? That was one. The other one I heard often was, you really don't have anything. You really don't have a software product. What you have is some technology that you're using to sell more services. And I also found that very frustrating. To this day, I still have people tell me that a services company, it's impossible for a services company to transition and build a software product.
It's complete bullshit. If you want, I can give you, 50 examples of case studies of companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies.
I agree with you. So the funny thing was, so I did a little test. Well, I'll tell you two things, right? One was, there was a venture capitalist that I met with, and their immediate reaction, I had really just kind of walked in a room and I just started to do my pitch. And there was a gentleman in the back of the room, as I started to do my pitch, he said, you don't have software, you have something you're using to sell more services. And I tried to kind of talk to him, and it wasn't working, so I just started to pack up my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another gentleman that was the managing member in the front of the room, and he said, what are you doing? Where are you going? I said, the guy in the back told me I don't have software, right? He didn't ask me what my software does. He didn't ask me who uses it. He didn't ask me what they pay for it. He just says, I don't have software. So if I don't have software, I might as well leave.
and the arrogance of these, roughly spreadsheet jockeys who have never built businesses themselves is just mind-boggling.
Well, it gets even funnier, right? So I went back to my office and I said, you know what, I'm going to stop banging my head against the wall here. I'm going to spin off, I'm going to take all the software-specific slides out of our pitch deck, and I'm just going to put them in a new deck and put a new company name on it, right? So I took that deck, and that's exactly what I did. So, and it was a few months later, I called back the same investor, right? And I said, would you be willing to meet again? And they said, yeah, sure, come on in. So I went in with the same exact software. I just took the software-specific slides out. I left the room with a term sheet. Same exact people.
Doesn't surprise me.
Same exact people.
I
left with a term sheet.
You put Ninth Wave in a separate company, though? It was a separate entity?
Yeah, I did. So, so the funny thing is, kind of fast-forwarding a bit now and coming into more recent times, in really kind of late, mid-2018, I looked at the business and I said, there is a real shift coming, in terms of financial data sharing and fintech and the whole, fintech ecosystem. And I believe that we're very well positioned to take advantage of that shift. And, how do we best do it? So I decided I would take another swing at, I actually never closed an investment. So,
so when you got that term sheet, you did not take the money?
I didn't take the money.
Good.
No.
Good for you.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't take the money. I'm
so
very glad
when did that episode happen of when you had to do this, or you did this repackaging? When was that?
So, when I did that repackaging back then, that was probably 01.
01, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So 01 to 2018, you ran as a bootstrap company. How far did you get to between your services, training, and software?
So what I did is, I kind of, after we survived, .com implosion, followed by 9/11, I really kind of, and then followed by 08, for that matter. right? I really kind of said, you know what, I'm going to run this business the way that, I want to run it for, for me, for my customers, for my employees, right?
Yeah. Forget
and yeah, exactly. And so we kind of settled into a really nice groove, and we were running close to about $30 million. And I only had the software business, and I had the services businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So going on from there, again, we had built a really nice software business, and I had a ton of great clients. So when I looked at the market opportunity in front of us, I said, if I'm really going to capitalize on this market opportunity, I will need more. I need more capital. I need more expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, let's take a look at raising some money again. Let's take a look at some strategic options. So I went out in 2018
mm-hmm.
to, kind of a small set of companies, strategics, some venture. And I said, let me see what I hear. Let me see what people tell me. And a lot of people passed again right away. So they looked at it and they said, too much services, don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would pass. Or we're allergic to services, don't like it, and they would pass. So again, I kind of went back to the office and I said, okay, well, the market is telling me what to do here. So let's officially spin this software business out into its own entity.
And finance it.
And finance it. And that was actually a tremendous amount of fun and a tremendous amount of hard work, as you might imagine. But, I went out to Silicon Valley, and I hired a Valley-based branding and marketing company who, God, I love them. They were so good. Company called 1185 Design, and woman named Peg them. Burke. Yeah, so Peggy, I have so much respect for her. She is a wonderful woman. And I had a lot of fun with her.
I've heard before.
Very, very impressive. I was so happy with her, and I had so much fun with her. She was so much fun to work with. I actually just talked to her a few weeks back. But so I hired 1185, and we went through. We hired Catchword. You ever hear of Catchword?
No.
So Catchword is a naming company.
Okay.
And I never thought I would hire a naming company, but so I hired Catchword to find a name for the business, and that was also a very, very interesting process. So as I went through that, they interviewed me. They asked me about 20 words that you would want associated with the company, and they asked a bunch of very interesting questions, and then based on the answers to those questions, I believe they must have some software that just spits out name categories. And one of the names they spit out was Ninth Wave. And I first heard it and I really, really liked it. And then there were some other things. It was it was a lot of, I really liked the name, and there was a lot of open space there, right? So if you Googled, if you searched Ninth Wave, you found a tattoo shop in New Jersey. You found a Russian painting. That's a great painting, actually. And then you found a heavy metal rock band in, I believe, Scotland. So there wasn't a lot out there, right? And you have to get the URL and all that. But I also like the symbology, which is they talk about wave sets, and a certain wave set where the ninth wave is the largest, right? Each wave is consecutively larger. The ninth wave is the largest, and then it resets itself. So the ninth wave comes along, washes everything away, and then the cycle starts again. So I liked that a lot. And so we did it, believe it or not, we did it in probably 2.5, maybe 3 months. So what I did to make sure that we would meet our dates is I went out and I spent a whole bunch of money on Finovate, in New York. That was, and that Finovate show, I had a demo slot and I had a booth on the floor, so I had to come up with a name, I had to come up with a logo. I didn't have any of that. So when we first signed up, it was like placeholder, Company X. And, I knew if I set that kind of a deadline, we would have to get the work done.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Thanks always.
Yeah, burn the boats, as they say. And, we launched at the Finovate show in 2018 and officially completed the spinoff in April of 2019 and closed the funding round right around that time as well.
Whom did you raise money from?
A company called Sororis Private Equity.
Okay. And how much revenue was the software business generating when you brought this firm in?
I don't want to get that wrong, so I'd rather not say that one.
Okay.
If you don't mind, yeah.
Just a ballpark? Are we talking tens of millions? Are we talking?
No.
Smaller.
Smaller. Yep.
Okay. All right.
But we had, the key there was also when we spun that business out, we had just started to convert from your conventional software license agreement type model to a SaaS-based recurring revenue model.
Right. So that transition takes time.
So a lot of that transition takes time, and there's a lot of pain that you need to go through there with cash flow and, revenue recognition and all that,
Right.
So we went through that. We had a lot of nice customers, but the bulk of the revenue, I shouldn't say the bulk of the revenue, but the model was really software license agreement, software maintenance. So we did a really good job, I think, of transitioning, in 2017 and 18, and we continue to do that. So we still have some customers that are on software maintenance, but we've transitioned a lot of them to that SaaS-based revenue model.
Okay, interesting. And you've kept the services business though on the side as well.
Yeah, the services company it's run by a separate management team. So I spend 100% of my time on Ninth Wave, and that was an interesting process too because I went to I had a software business operating under enterprise engineering, and now, hey, I'm going to create a brand new entity, right? And when I create that brand new entity,
I've seen this movie many, many, many times before, so I know exactly how this operates. All of these steps of transition, and it's a bit cumbersome. It takes some time, but they work if you do it right and if you do it diligently. And it takes a bit of time, but so what?
You're right, and it's I'm really happy with the. I'm very, very happy with our products. Very happy with the customers, the reception. I've seen a real transition in the business, especially over the last year. So you start something new, people don't know really what it is. And, what I have now is there's a lot of unsolicited inbound traffic that you didn't have in the beginning. And there's a lot of people that actually call. In the beginning we paid, some headhunters to go out and find people, and that doesn't happen anymore. Now people find us. So having that kind of a pivot is, I think it's a real testament to what you're doing and your value proposition. So when you have people calling you saying, hey, I really love what you're doing, do you think there's an opportunity for me? Well, you have customers saying, I heard that, you did this for, whatever company, and, we'd like to talk to you about that. So,
George,
it's very...
I want to point you to something that I wrote recently that you may find interesting in this context. As you are thinking about your product roadmap, this actually may make a lot of sense for you.
Sure, thank you.
So if you go to our website, 1Mby1M.com, and go to our blog, you will see, if you do a search on startup ideas, you will see a post called 8 Post-COVID Startup Ideas. And in there, there's one piece called managing philanthropy in the post-COVID world, something like that.
Got it.
And what I have done in that, so I was kind of brainstorming in the context of COVID. I was like, a lot of people were asking for startup ideas, what are the trends, etc. And I started kind of putting my thoughts together with respect to the COVID discontinuity and proposing, ideas. And actually, somebody who was a member of the 1Mby1M program earlier on has just sold his company and wants to start doing another company, and he's working on one of my ideas right now. So he's back in the program, and we're collaborating. It's been great fun. But this managing philanthropy one, is very interesting to me because we have a partner. 1Mby1M has a partner, a company called Blackbaud, that is one of the leaders in software as a service for managing philanthropy. They cater to foundations and so on and so forth, trusts and foundations and so forth. And my thought was, thinking about it from my own point of view, my bank is Morgan Stanley. And Morgan Stanley has all these functions like donor-advised funds and so on and so forth. So what I would love to do is put some money money that I have in the donor-advised fund. I want to be able to click and say, I want to fund 50 chamber music organizations in small amounts of money, but I want to support these organizations. There is no one-click way of doing any of that from a donor-advised fund kind of console. I would love to hear what you think about something like this being part of your software offering.
Well, thank you for asking that. I'll definitely put it. I know Morgan Stanley actually quite well, and I know the space fairly well. So
take a look at it and reach out to me if you would like to. If you want to do something with it. But I think this is the right dot to connect. That's why I connected this dot just now.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate that. I'll dig in
right.
there.
Well, I love your story. Philosophically, I'm very much in agreement with how you have played your cards, and I fully recognize the utter stupidity of how the industry operates. So nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you for the time. It's great meeting you as well.
Take care. Bye, George.
All right. Bye.
Bye.